Crawley with Talkback on BBC Radio Ulster.
Welcome back. 6.5 minutes past 1. Rishi Sunak's government has been taking a beating in Parliament over the scale of migration into the UK since Brexit. It has tripled in that period alone, even though reducing migration is his government's top priority. So yesterday, in the House of Commons, the Home Secretary, James Cleverly, announced the biggest ever crackdown on immigration into the UK, with a plan aimed at reducing new migration by 300,000 people a year.
Madam Deputy Speaker, today we have taken decisive action to reduce legal migration with our 5-point plan. Enough is enough. We are curbing abuses to the healthcare visa. We are increasing thresholds, cutting the SOL discount, increasing family income requirements, and cutting the number of student dependents. And I commend this statement to the House.
The Home Secretary also said yesterday that they will be increasing the annual immigration health surcharge this year by 66%. So that's an increase from £624 to £1,035. He says that will raise an additional 1.3 billion for health services in this country. That's a surcharge that people who are foreign workers coming into the country are required to pay additionally in order to access health services while they're in the UK. So they're not getting health services free, remember. There's a surcharge for all of that. The Home Secretary says their forecast, their prediction is that this would reduce by 300,000 people the number of people annually coming into the UK. Net migration for the year ending June of this year was 672,000 people. So under these plans, it would nearly halve net migration per year. That's what they're forecasting. What do you think? And Andrew Eborn is a lawyer and broadcaster. Welcome to all of you. Good to have you with us. Just a reminder of that particular section of the policy, which the Home Secretary announced yesterday. I'll quote him from his statement in Parliament. He said, "We will ensure that people bring only dependents whom they can support financially by raising the minimum income for family visas to the same threshold as the minimum salary threshold for skilled workers," which is that large figure, 38,700. And as Caroline says, that is a doubling on the current figure, more than doubling actually, isn't it? 18,600. It hasn't been increased since 2012. They're increasing it by more than double. And this package of measures, he says, will take effect next spring, so sort of around about April of next year. Let me bring in Andrew. Your thoughts on this package of measures. What do you think of it, Andrew?
Well, I think, first of all, I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for what Caroline has very eloquently described and the trauma on families. But I always believe, and what I love about your programme, William, is that you shine more light and less heat on it. And the biggest way of selling anything to anybody is through fear. And one of the things that we're talking about, we need to make the distinction between families who are already here and those who are thinking of coming in the future. What James Cleverly said is enough is enough. The immigration policy must be fair, legal and sustainable. You quoted the figures up to June this year. I think it said 672,000. Yeah. Last year in 2022, it soared to a record 745,000 people. And net migration is, as people will know, the difference between those entering the UK and leaving the UK. And what the Conservatives have repeatedly promised since they came to power in 2010 is to take back control of the UK's borders since the Brexit vote. And in the 2019 election manifesto, they committed to getting the numbers down. And David Cameron, previous Prime Minister and now in his glorious new post, he once pledged to bring it down below 100,000. What they need to do is to basically look at the realities. Those people who are here, we need to make sure that they're dealt with in a very fair and reasonable way, which is Caroline's main point. You don't want to traumatise family. What we need to look at is going through to the future. The 300,000 they're talking about are what might happen in the future. And what Rishi Sunak said is that if you can't contribute to the UK, then you're not coming to the UK. And what we need to look at, people always say charity begins at home. And there are all sorts of resources that are being depleted as a result of this huge increase in net migration. So all of these policies, they don't operate in a vacuum. You need to look at the whole picture to make sure that happens. But also, as I say, to make sure that fear is not spread. So the terrible situation that Caroline, as I say, very eloquently describes, doesn't come to fruition. So that was my view, is we need to do something. People are saying there's always 5-point plans, isn't it? But this is what they're saying. They need to look at those sort of things. And you remember one of Rishi Sunak's 5-point plan was to stop the boats. Well, that's one issue. But looking at what we do to make sure that the UK is a better place and that it's basically can be afforded for everybody is really important. And the other factor, which I'm sure you're going to come on to as well, is it going to have a knock-on effect for the workforce? And it may do, is what they're saying, but not very much. And again, what we need to do is to look at that. Is that a reality? Because what they're saying, and again, we need to get the facts rather than speculation. What they're saying is actually people won't be deterred as a result of it. You are not going to have this critical short staff. There will be people who still want to come here, but don't have to bring on somebody extra to come with them. And that's what we need to work out. Are those staffing concerns a reality? And the other point I would just very briefly make, William, I'm sure we can come back to this. As you know, I speak around the world as a futurist, apart from being a barrister. So looking at how we can embrace technology and how that the whole sort of future industry is going to change as a result of it. And technology will have a massive impact on all of our lives, not least on the NHS, improving efficiency, improving the diagnosis of disease, and so on and so forth. And they had very recently ChatGPT, which celebrated its first birthday on the 30th of November. They're saying that ChatGPT had more empathy than chatting to your GP. So what will happen is, as a result of the increased pressures, as a result of the increased pressures on the workforce, technology will accelerate. So there is good news in amongst all the other stuff, but as Caroline says, you need to be very sensitive to the people who are here at the moment to make sure that trauma is eliminated as much as possible.
Well, sure, we've got a million or so unfilled jobs in the UK. We're hearing from the hospitality sector today more than 120,000 unfilled positions in their world. 20% of the hospitality sector across the UK generally come from migrant workers coming in. So it may be optimistic. We'll see that there will be no effect on these changes. But the point of these changes, of course, is to drive down migration. My thanks for now to Shoaib Khan, the human rights lawyer, Caroline Coombs from Reuniting Families UK, and the lawyer and broadcaster Andrew Eborn. That's it from us. See you tomorrow.